Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I want to talk about Nancy Pelosi's husband adding to his AMC position and why he's adding more shares. I also want to talk about Evergrande's official default, so stay tuned and let's make some money. And now I want to dive straight in with the key information. So, Pelosi's husband has added to his AMC position. If we have a look at the recent 13F filings, we can see that AlianceBernstein Limited Partners has just added an additional 97,000 shares. This brings his total shareholdings to 594,000 shares of AMC, valued at around $22 million. And therefore, clearly Nancy Pelosi's husband sees AMC going up much higher. But why? You may remember that I showed you this graph sometime last week and basically said that this week I expect a red week so we can stay exactly on track with what happened back in May. Obviously back in May, the week before earnings, we had an excellent run up where we went from the bottom of the wedge all the way to the top of the wedge. We then fell on the earnings announcement and then traded sideways for the rest of that week before running up soon after. And now in November, the exact same thing has just happened. The week before earnings, we went from the very bottom of the wedge here all the way to the top of the wedge. And obviously this week the earnings came out and we did fall on those earnings. I now expect us to trade fairly flat, somewhere between $37 and $39 for the rest of this week. And then next week is when I expect us to break through that $45 mark where we've basically had this triple touch and then through the $54 mark and then on to new highs. And also you may have seen this interview on Dealbook where Ken Griffin said that the AMC movement had died off a few weeks ago. Let's hear what he had to say.
Now, the whole GameStop conspiracy theory, I mean, that's come and gone. It was fascinating to be in the middle of that conspiracy.
Yeah, what was that like for you?
This is like a bad comedy joke. I mean, it's like a Saturday Night Live skit,
but
but in real time.
Do you have a Twitter account? Do you follow this?
I do not have a Twitter account.
Does somebody send you this stuff? How does it work in your office?
People come down and just tell me what's going on.
But it persists to this day.
It resurged a few weeks ago and then died back off.
What do you think Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, is going to do when it comes to payment for order flow?
I don't know. I don't know. But here's what I do know. The United States has the most efficient equity market in the world. And the SEC unleashed competition with Rule NMS, and that has been a huge windfall for all investors, pension plans, endowments, people saving for the retirement, retail investors, day trading. Everybody won on the back of the SEC introducing competition with Reg NMS. Everybody won. Are we going to go back to re-regulating the markets and taking back the competition that has allowed Americans to save so much money when trading? If that's what he does, it's a tragedy. If he's looking to fine-tune our system, there's, of course, ways to improve our equity market today. We've gone to the SEC with concrete proposals. There's no reason that stocks trade at a 1 cent spread in highly liquid names. We should make that half a cent. We should cut bid-ask spreads in half. We're 100% in favor of this.
What would that do to your own margins?
Well, of course, it would compress them dramatically. That's okay. We'll get an increase in volume. We'll get an increase in participation. We'll do fine. I'm not worried about it. And our hedge fund is one of the largest traders of stocks in the United States. For all of the endowments and foundations that invest in our hedge fund, lower transaction costs put more money on the bottom line for people that trust us with their money. So yes, I'm going to advocate for tighter spreads. I think that's better for the markets.
Now, I personally think that right there is a sense of denial, when he talks about it being a bad comedy and how it resurfaced and then died back off after a few weeks. I think that's him really being in denial of what's just happened to him. The entire world now knows that Ken Griffin lied under oath. The entire world is now a lot more aware of all of the sketchy practices that go on in the market today. I think when he says it was a bad comedy, he's just covering up how close he really came to bankruptcy. As I just explained with this graph here, the AMC movement has most definitely not died off. If anything, hype is coming back to the AMC stock, ready for the next run up. I think as soon as we start breaking that $45 mark and that $50 mark, we're going to see hundreds of millions, if not potentially billions of shares being traded on a daily basis. And when we've got billions of shares of AMC being traded on a daily basis, this is when the AMC price is going to run up to new highs. Now currently most people don't have a lot of confidence in the stock market. These institutions and market makers get all of these exemptions, there's a massive lack of reporting, and it basically seems like all of the normal laws and regulations just don't apply to them. But when investing in cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Shiba Inu, Loopring, or many others, it's much more of an even playing field. And that's why I personally use BlockFi to invest in cryptocurrency. Not only can you just buy some Bitcoin, but you can also earn interest on your deposits, also paid in Bitcoin. So you can just continue to accumulate more and more and more. And if you sign up using my link in the description below and deposit at least $100, you'll get up to $250 in free Bitcoin. BlockFi also offer a rewards credit card with an introductory rate of 3.5% cashback on your purchases, also paid in cryptocurrency. So you can just continue to accumulate more and more and more. There's also no annual fee, but unfortunately the credit card's only available in the US at the moment and not in the UK. And when you generate a massive profit on your investment, instead of selling off your Bitcoin or your Loopring or your Shiba Inu or whatever it is that you hold and potentially missing out on the next run up, you can just take out a crypto-backed loan with BlockFi. That way you can get cash for your necessary expenditure without having to sell off your crypto. Now I also wanted to go back and touch on something from one of my previous videos the other day when I said how the Federal Reserve declared AMC and GameStop a stability risk. Nathan G said on Twitter, the US stock market is valued at $26.2 trillion. AMC and GameStop make up 0.001526% of that. Federal Reserve, do you realise how stupid you look by blaming a market crash or financial instability on meme stock holders? I think it's ridiculous that the Federal Reserve is trying to blame AMC and GameStop holders for financial instability problems with the market and saying that the fact that we do our own research and hold the stock is a problem, considering that there's tons and tons of hedge funds and institutions out there that buy stock and hold it until they generate a profit and do their own research as well. Us retail investors and AMC apes are not doing anything different compared to the institutions in terms of buying and selling the stock. The only thing that we're doing differently is that we're buying and selling stock legally and not illegally naked shorting stocks. The inflation data from October has now been released. You remember from my video earlier that I said that October's inflation was expected to be 5.9%. Which would have made it massively higher than in September, August, July, and every month before. The actual data is just in, and October inflation is not 5.9%, it's a whopping 6.2%. That's the highest inflation rate we've seen in over 30 years. And on top of this, it's not like we saw back in 2008, when inflation ran up from 4.2% to 5% to 5.6%, but then started to go back down to 5.4, 4.9 and then trailed off. At the moment, inflation is showing no signs of slowing down whatsoever and instead is showing signs of speeding up. I wonder if we'll even break the 7% mark in November. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Now I also wanted to talk about Market Rebellion's tweet saying Evergrande has officially defaulted. DMSA is preparing bankruptcy proceedings against Evergrande. Now you might say, well Tom, there's been tons and tons of reports from Western mainstream media that Evergrande has made all of its bond payments on time, even to offshore bondholders. How can Evergrande have defaulted on their debt if they've made all of their payments on time? Haven't there been tons and tons of confirmations? And I think that's where you're wrong. Yes, mainstream media has reported that Evergrande made these payments, but there's been no actual factual support. So what is the facts behind Evergrande's payment or non-payment of these bonds? Well, I've got this report from DMSA. Evergrande officially defaulted. DMSA is preparing bankruptcy proceedings against Evergrande Group. China Evergrande Group today again defaulted on interest payments to international investors. DMSA itself is invested in these bonds and has not received any interest payments until today's end of the grace period. Now, DMSA is preparing bankruptcy proceedings against Evergrande and calls on all bond investors to join in. And therefore the facts are that DMSA itself is invested in these bonds and has not received any interest payments. China Evergrande Group, the second largest real estate developer in China, defaulted on interest payments on 2 bonds back in September, with the 30-day grace period still ending in October. However, shortly before the end of the grace period, the public was misled by rumours about alleged interest payments. Only the DMSA already recognised the default at that time and proved in a study that the bankruptcy of Evergrande, the world's most indebted corporation, could ultimately lead to a great reset, as in the final meltdown of the global financial system. In order to be able to file for bankruptcy against the company as a creditor, DMSA itself invested in Evergrande bonds, whose grace period expired today, November 10th, 2021. In total, Evergrande would have had to pay $148.13 million in interest on 3 bonds no later than today. But so far we have not received any interest on our bonds, explains Meltzer. He adds, with banks in Hong Kong closing today, it's certain that these bonds have defaulted. And what's particularly problematic for Evergrande is that all 23 outstanding bonds have a cross-default clause. This means that if a single one of these bonds default, all 23 outstanding bonds automatically have default status. DMSA senior analyst Meltzer knows, however, this does not automatically result in a bankruptcy for Evergrande Group. To determine bankruptcy, an insolvency petition must be filed with the court. This can either be done by the company itself or by one or more of the company's creditors, and that is precisely what is now planned. Guys, be sure to let me know down in the comments below what you think about Nancy Pelosi's husband adding to his AMC position, and what you think about the Evergrande default. If you haven't already, be sure to sign up to BlockFi using my link in the description below and deposit at least $100 to get up to $250 in free Bitcoin. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my others. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.